Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the webinar. This is Paula Chenoweth, and we have Professor Ellen Grant on the call with us as well. Our presenter tonight is Oliver Cutshaw, and Professor Grant will be providing us with an introduction.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this evening's professional development seminar. This evening, we have LA campus librarian Oliver Cutshaw presenting for us. Oliver has been with the Chicago School at the LA campus for 8.5 years. Previously, he was at Harvard University working as a librarian for 10 years. And in all, Oliver Cutshaw has been working in libraries for approximately 38 years. So we do have someone here with a lot of experience who's going to be presenting the discussion this evening. And Paula, I will hand things over to you, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you, Professor Grant. Welcome, Oliver. We really appreciate your time this evening in sharing more information about the library. We seem to get the best attendance when the topics relate to the library, because library understanding is so important, especially in education. For the audience, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please go ahead and type them in the questions box. I will be facilitating those with Oliver throughout the presentation. And Oliver, you do have presentation, right? So if you'd like, do you have a PowerPoint you'd like to share with us?
No, I'm just going to go directly to the screen itself.
Okay. Well, excellent. Welcome again, and we'll hand it over to you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And hopefully this will work. So let's see. Show my screen. Well, how's that? I hope everyone can see the screen. Otherwise, this will be a very, very dull demonstration. One thing I want to emphasize is we are now sharing across the library systems at each campus all the same basic online resources. And it's very important to have this sort of unified approach, because our students are literally scattered all across the nation. And when you also look at our online students, many of the students primarily use online resources. Now, I in no way want to diminish the importance of the quote-unquote old-fashioned analytic resources and old-fashioned analog resources. I certainly grew up with those. When I first started in the libraries, we were still using a card catalog, and we were still primarily just using books and microfilm and microfiche. So I certainly respect those other resources, but the online approach is actually the more growing approach for the school, and will be the one we're going to be developing over the next few years. So in a true sense, you can go into any one of these campus portals and you would get the same information, but perhaps out of a sense of nostalgia, I will be going through Southern California. There are some slight variations on these screens in different places, but the approach is pretty much the same. So we try to keep our information uniform. However, at each campus, if you want to contact people, as you can see here with the contact information, you will actually be reaching the local campus individuals. And there's some variations, obviously, in what the WorldCat would show for each campus, especially in terms of the traditional book materials. The Chicago campus has a much more robust book collection and a much larger test kit collection than we do here in LA. But in terms of online resources such as EBooks, streaming videos, and our many, many thousands of electronic journals, those are shared across the country. And I do want to make a big point about the fact that each student, whether you are in Chicago, whether you are in Los Angeles and DC or online, you have access to the same online resources. There is no difference. To get started, I do want to emphasize a couple of things. I'm sort of going to try to go through a basic approach of what I call a book, an article, and a video. And the reason I'm doing that is because these are sort of the basics of what people would be looking for. And then secondly, I want to show some slightly different approaches using our WorldCat catalog. The World Catalog has had enormous improvements over the previous catalog we used to have. Before, you really actually often had to go into a particular database or off into a particular ebook file in order to find information. Now it is much more unified. So, for example, when you do your ebook searching, or book searching per se, you can really have confidence that you are looking for all the ebooks and all the physical books at your location, and in terms of ebooks, you're looking at all the books that we have ebooks across the country. So it is a much simpler search, a much more thorough search. But you do have to be careful of a few little dynamics. I don't have any problem with looking at everything. Everything's a nice thing to look at occasionally, especially when you're working on your dissertations. But generally speaking, I prefer if students, when I'm working with students here, to take a sort of intermediate approach. That is, not too specific, not too broad. Try to keep your approach when you start your searching kind of in an intermediate mode, and then you can narrow it or broaden it as the results dictate. Now let's try to look and see if we can find a book or an ebook that would be of use. And in this particular case, I'm looking for an ebook that I think is being used in a program here at the LA campus, and I think actually being used nationally at several programs. So you're going to choose books, and then it is very important, for example, and we're going to do a search called clinical interviewing. I hope I can type. And it's very important. This search box is absolutely essential. If you are looking for books at the Chicago campus, and that would be physical books, choose this one, Chicago. Physical books in LA, physical books in DC. Worldwide takes you to a kind of literally national search, and that national search means that you could be finding books all across the country. This is a wonderful thing to be doing when you're doing your dissertation work, but when you're doing your looking for a textbook or looking for a book to do an assignment for that week or that weekend, worldwide search is a little bit too broad, to be honest. Also, for most of us, and let's be honest, our time is very, very precious. So we really do want to find an ebook that you can access fully right away. So in my case, I always tell my students, click on the LA campus. This is especially true for looking for ebooks, but also just books in general, because my students basically, as they often tell me, they want to know if we own a book here. They're not really interested if we own a book in DC. But, you know, sometimes you might be, because, you know, you might want to see what the TCS holdings are nationwide. Now you're going to click Go. And you notice that clinical interviewing does bring up an ebook. And to view that ebook, you would be clicking on this link, and that would take you to the portal that takes you to the database that is lets you see the entire book. Now, one of the things that people often ask when you click on these View Now, if you are off campus, you're going to be prompted to provide a username and password. That's your database username and password, or that famous one you use all the time for your email. So don't get worried. You get prompted once, and you have to use that. I would also say, notice that there's a number of ebooks listed right away here. So this just gives you an opportunity to see that a lot of ebooks are available, but then right down here is a print book. And it's important to look at those distinctions, because the question becomes, do you want to find an ebook, an immediate link, or do you want a traditional book format? In addition, let us look here at the clinical interviewing one. It says view all editions. If you click on that, you'll notice that there are some print books and some ebooks. So it depends what format you want. For example, I happen to know that we actually own a print copy of this particular book. So different people like different formats. Now, I'm a traditionalist librarian. I love books, but many students love the e-formats. However, there are students who like the print formats. I don't have any problems if you want one or the other, or it's your business what you want. But the e-formats do give you flexibility to get your studies done. And they also provide you with the option of looking at the book whenever you really need to look at the book. I do want to make a quick point of reference to our ebooks, because they do come in different kinds of formats, and sometimes this is a little confusing to students. Some ebooks, such as this one, and hopefully our links will work, view ebook. Oh, here's that sign in. So that everyone has to use. Let's hope I signed it in correctly. And as you can see, it takes you right to the ebook. And it's very easy to use, and lots of links and lots of opportunities here. And it is the full book. And this is a very nice format. This is actually what we call an eBrary book. However, there are also some books in our system which are the APA books. The APA books are interesting because they are actually collections of PDFs. And because of that, each chapter is its own PDF. So that has actually a lot of flexibility. You can send a PDF to one of your friends. You can send a PDF to a colleague somewhere. You can download the PDFs to your own files. So the APA book has a little bit more flexibility than some of these eBrary books. However, there are only 2,000 APA books, and there are over 10,000 eBrary books just in the field of psychology. So the eBrary collection is much, much more robust. So to each his own, and you find what you find and you use what you use. One thing I would also tell people is that a number of our students report that even though they can find an eBrary book, they often go ahead and buy the regular print book. And I find that kind of interesting, because as an older librarian, it's sort of amusing to me, because we often read articles about how millennials all love to use ebooks. But in point of fact, many of the millennials who come into my library say they prefer the old-fashioned book and paper book. So you never know in this world. I did want to also point out an ebook that you can access either via our unified search box here in the middle, or you can use this pull-down menu, which I often use. And so I'm actually going to do this search both ways, just so you can see that you can find it either way. This is for the DSM-5, which of course is one of the key tools in the field of psychology. So hopefully this will work. And there it is, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And this book is, of course, one of the key resources that everyone uses in the clinical programs, forensic programs, but even in the programs like MFT and IO and other ones, they may have reference to this. This is, one of the standard sources, and one of the great things we have available to our students is this resource, free and fully, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's something I really do want to emphasize. All of our e-resources are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they really give students a flexibility to do their research and to do their analysis whenever they want. Now let's go back, because I like to see things through multiple patterns. And I think that's one of the things I do emphasize as a librarian in all the dissertation work and reference and research work I do with students, faculty, and administrators. I try to emphasize that there are multiple doorways through the WorldCat and through our databases to find the same information. And sometimes some people will prefer one way over the other. It's just an individual choice. So I'm going to use this thing up here in the search toolbar, which I use a lot. I don't know why, but I just happen to like it. And maybe it appeals to my structural sense. If you look at this one, it says Find Books. If you click on that, you will see our dear friend over here, the DSM-5. And the thing that's really nice about the DSM-5 is that this is part of the Psychiatry Online system. And not only is the DSM-5 there, but there are a number of other clinical psychology tools available. So you can either find the DSM-5 by using that book approach that I was showing, or you can find the DSM-5 by using this link up here approach. So either one is fine, and different people, as I said before, like to use different methods. Now let's do an article search. Articles are really sort of the backbone of most of the research that people do in the field of psychology, mainly because the field of psychology has a strong emphasis on current literature, current research, and media updates, and also updates in new forms. For example, when the DSM-5 came, almost all the treatment planner manuals and many of the articles and many of the references all had to change because the DSM-5 had different standards and different terminology than the DSM-4 TR had. So let's just do a basic search with articles, and we'll do something fun like depression, depression studies. Mainly because I know there's a lot of stuff there. So we would go here. Also notice you can limit by the journal underneath, but a lot of times when students are working with their materials initially, they may not know which journal to look for. After you've been using the articles and databases and looking for material for a long time, you may already understand and know which are the key journals in the field. Okay, so notice when you hit that nice little journal search box, it gets a whole bunch of things, and it says eView now and availability. You also notice it still says the Chicago School. Now, one of the things I would emphasize is to look over here on the left. Now, you can tell that this screen has been designed by librarians because it includes way too much material for any normal human being to possibly interpret just by casually looking at the screen. We librarians have a tendency to want to be thorough, and sometimes thorough to the point of exhaustion, but hopefully it won't be too exhaustive. I did want to point out, though, that in this article searching, notice that peer-reviewed has already been checked. And peer-reviewed, I think, is essential for something that all faculty and instructors and researchers would emphasize. And just to go over, I know everybody probably knows this, but peer-reviewed means that this is an article that has been approved and published by a academic journal, a journal of one's peers, as it were. And so that means that it's something that will be accepted. Now, I want to emphasize something that's very important. When you're working on your papers, when you're working on your dissertation materials, generally speaking, peer-reviewed articles are the only articles that will be accepted. There are some exceptions to that rule. Sometimes in our fields, business psychology would be one, IO another, but also in generally speaking in perhaps MFT work and other work, you might want to go out and see what is being published in popular culture, or what is being published in newspapers and journals and periodical and weekly publications. They wouldn't be used primarily as a supportive material for your research, but it could be used to indicate what are people writing about, say, in the areas of drug addiction or schizophrenia. Another really useful tool over here on the left is this little box for full text. Now, this is an area that always gets me in trouble with some of our faculty, but I will say this out. Most of our students, our time is very, very precious. Our deadlines are looming. We just don't have time to look for everything, find everything, go to everything. So what we really actually are looking for are, say, 5 full-text articles on a particular topic that you can read during the course of a week and write a paper. Now, there are times when you want to do a much fuller search, especially when you're doing a dissertation or maybe a semester paper or a long-term presentation or a thesis. Yes, you should be looking widely in those cases. But when you have the pressure of completing a weekly assignment or working on a group presentation that is due, say, this coming Sunday, you need to find full text. So in that case, you would want to click on that and the results will be updated. That does mean you will not be seeing some of the same articles. You may be missing something that's really valuable and interesting. But sometimes, you know, time presses on. Now, when you click that off, it does mean that occasionally you will click onto an article and you won't be able to find the full text for the article. Okay? You need not panic because we do have something called Interlibrary Loan. And on many of the web pages on the TCS website, library website, there are links to the Iliad or Interlibrary Loan program, and you can sign up. So one of the things you can do is, as you sign up for Iliad or Interlibrary Loan, that will allow you to access or request those articles that we don't have. And the success rate for those articles is very high. We can't get everything, but we can get most things. But I always warn people when you're doing Interlibrary Loan to be time sensitive. Interlibrary Loan, generally speaking, can take anywhere for an article between 1 day to 4 days. For a book, it could be 10 days to 2 weeks. So, and for a chapter of a book, it might be a week. So if you had a paper due this coming Saturday, Interlibrary Loan is really not a viable option for your work if it's already late Thursday afternoon. Now, that's just one of the limitations of the system. And just so that people understand a little bit about Interlibrary Loan, because it is directly connected to the World Catalog and our catalog in general, very intimately. When you use Interlibrary Loan, the request actually comes to the local campus library staff, They process that and they send it out to Alaska, Alabama, Georgia, universities all over the country. And somebody who works in those libraries takes a look in their interlibrary loan system, sees if they have that material, and tries to answer the request. So I have had interlibrary loan requests that have been answered in literally just a single afternoon, and I've had interlibrary loan requests just for an article that have taken 10 days. Most of the requests for articles and chapters from books will now come in the form of PDFs or e-links, and they will be emailed to your account. So it's a very efficient system. It's not like the old interlibrary loan of many years ago where somebody photocopied a chapter in a book and mailed it. It's a very interactive system these days. Books, they're a little bit of a different matter because books now for interlibrary loan, partly because so many e-books now exist, there are many universities that are not purchasing as many books, and so books are a little harder to get through interlibrary loan in some ways than they used to be, and some schools are a little more reluctant to ship books, especially if they're considered valuable or unusual or highly in heavy use. So interlibrary loan can be a little bit dicey for books. But for journal articles and for chapters from books, it's a very, very good and useful tool. But once again, I would emphasize that interlibrary loan requires that you actually have a few days to get the material, because not only do you want to get the article, but you actually have to read the article, and then you have to incorporate it into your paper or your group presentation. So if you don't have time to get the article and read the article, which, as I said, could be 4 days, there's no sense in really getting it. So that's one of those things that each teacher, each scholar, each administrator has to think about whenever they do a search. I also want to point out a couple of nice things that are over here on the screen on the left-hand side. You notice that you actually can limit your search by years. You can, up here, you could limit it by a chapter in a book or a downloadable article or peer-reviewed. They have all these other options. So this tool is very robust. However, as I pointed out earlier, we librarians often put too many things on the screen. So one of the keys is taking a little time to get to know these things on here. And but don't be intimidated by them. So we're going to go back to the previous page. And no, it doesn't say I want to go back. Oh, well, we'll get there someday. So I did want to emphasize, too, the one thing that I think is really important when you're starting off your searching is here in this box that some folks are going to want to do different types of searching. And this article search box, I do find sometimes can be a little intimidating for students and they can become confused. So if you're having some trouble with this, I do have an alternate way for you to find materials. And once again, we're going to use this pull-down menu. And we're going to go here to Find Articles and Journals, okay? Click on that. Now, we have a very unified search system, and it's through ProQuest. And if you click on ProQuest, which is right here on the screen, you can actually do your journal searching here. It's going to work pretty much the same as the previous articles search box that you just had. It's just we're going through the ProQuest database, which is our main hub database. And when you search ProQuest, you're actually searching many, many databases all at the same time. So it's a very efficient system to use. I did want to point out a couple of things, though, that I pointed out before, in that WorldCat search box. One is you're going to want to check, generally speaking, especially when we're early on and doing most of our quick research for assignments, full text, and you also want to check peer-reviewed. Now, for example, if you type in depression studies, and if I could type, that would be easy, and click. And sometimes it takes a few seconds. You'll see that you're finding all kinds of articles. Now, one thing I want to emphasize in our findings is that you notice here this article, Depression as a Risk Factor for Breast Cancer, Cancer Causes and Controls. Many of our journals are not just in the field of psychology, but that makes sense for our school. Our school now has programs in public health, education, business studies, and other studies. So as we continue to broaden out, we get more and more material in more and more subject areas. That actually is a good thing, because the field of psychology specifically embraces work in so many other areas. For example, criminology, law, business management, organizational management. And so the fact that you're getting articles that may have references to other areas is actually a good thing, not a bad thing. So you'll see that you actually can get thousands and thousands of articles. However, once again, you could limit them by certain types of search options. You could also limit them, as you see over here, by publication date. And that's very important, because some folks really want to get articles that are much more contemporary, much more up-to-date. Each person's search needs are different. Going back here, if this works, we can see something else I want to emphasize, since we just happen to be on this page. You can do dissertation searching through our WorldCat generalized unified search box that we were working on earlier. However, the easiest way and the simplest way to do dissertation searching is actually right here in this ProQuest box. And I'll show you the option, which is right here, dissertation. And you have two options. One, you can look for dissertations for the TCS PP, and this is full text. Virtually every single one of those dissertations is full text, and it's pretty much all our dissertations for the last 20 years. So it gives you a very, very good option for your dissertation work. Secondly, you can also do a more global dissertation search. This would allow you to look for dissertations all across the country. Now, students often ask me, why would I kind of want to do a sort of generalized global dissertation search? And I say, well, because you're starting your dissertation topic. So you want to see, what are other people writing about? What population groups are they looking at? What psychoactive measures are they using? What assessment tools are they using? So what is their psychopharmacological approach? So one of the things that's really great about looking at a global search is you can see, what are scholars across the country doing? How are they looking at the dissertation process? What topics are they coming up with? And very often, it can be a really fascinating quick analysis. So it can tell you some helpful information. Now, if you look at the one for the Chicago school, per se, that one can be very helpful, and I'm going to just click on it. It's a nice bold new screen, by the way. We just got some new ProQuest screens and look very nice. But here's the thing that's really interesting. If you looked at something like forensic analysis, just to see, and I'm just popping in a term here just to see what pops up, you notice all of a sudden you get 383 results. And these are actually dissertations that have come from our institution. So they can serve as models for your research, and in many cases models for successful research on your dissertation topic. And another thing I always like to look at in terms of the dissertation, if you notice, look at these dissertations, especially a lot in the last few years. That's an indication that that's a topic that's really, really growing, and an area that's really growing. And this model here, that range, varies from topic to topic, but that can indicate that a set of interest in something such as PTSD or whatever. So it just shows you other people are writing about some of the same things you're writing about. And sometimes that, in a strange way, is a comfort to students, because it lets them know that other people sort of share their ideas and share their interests and concerns. And I think that's really one of the things which helps students when they're a little troubled in that early part of the dissertation work to how do I hone down my topic? How do I hone down what is going to be the focus of my dissertation? And I always tell people with dissertations, and I've helped many, many students here, you may find that there's 100 people who've written about your topic in the last 20 years. And that may make you feel, oh, there's nothing left to be said. However, you may have a unique approach within that field. On the other hand, I've also worked with students who virtually nobody has written a dissertation in this country on the topic they're working on. So some people like to go on a more unique path, and some people like to follow the mainstream research or comment on the research of others or update the research that has gone on before. So each student finds their own path through the dissertation work. But this is actually a really great tool for finding dissertations. However, I do want to make one important addition. When you're searching for dissertations, please use this localized search icon. Do not use this box up here. I'm not saying you can't find dissertations through here, but what you're going to find them is intermixed with a lot of articles, chapters, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So you may not be able to pick the dissertation topics out and dissertations that easily. So please, please use this subset database, okay? And that's enough on that topic. Videos also fall into this same category. And it's interesting because videos always fall into one of two categories, like, and I'll have the faculty member come in and she'll say, or he will say, I'm looking for a video on therapy with mixed blended families, or I'm looking for a video on grief and loss, or they're going to say, I'm looking for a very specific video by a very specific expert. So I'm going to show you once again two ways to get to the same thing, and we often do that in our field. So once again, you're going to click videos. You're going to click LA Campus, and then we're going to do Aaron Beck, who's a well-known person. And gosh darn it, there we are, Aaron Beck on cognitive therapy. And this is a video which you'll be able to view. You can follow the links, and it'll take you to the view screen. I don't want to go too far into that because we might end up in the same area, but this will be a very useful tool. Now, once again, you notice I used that LA Campus designator, okay? Now, when you use videos, it's actually going to give you two kinds of videos. Some are streaming videos, and some are good old-fashioned videos you might pull off a shelf. And for the younger people in the audience who are more used to Netflix, there used to be things called video stores, and so we were very familiar with videos that you actually pulled off the shelf. And our Chicago campus library and our LA campus library and our DC campus libraries all have videos on their shelves, and even a few DVDs and VH products and who knows what. But that's not where our major emphasis is anymore. Our major emphasis today is on the streaming videos that you can access via databases. And the reason is that this way they can be shared all across the country, and this way also multiple people within the same geographic community, such as Southern California, can use them. Because very often these videos are signed by teachers, and they'll say, please look at the Aaron Beck video on cognitive therapy this weekend. And so that you can be prepared for the Sunday class so we can, discuss the video. And I think it's really important to understand that the more we get these videos into the streaming and national resource sharing, the better it is for all the people and for all the students. So, but occasionally we do still buy a good old-fashioned DVD and we stick it up on the shelf and we have it here and people can check it out. So we do a dual approach, and I know they do that in Chicago and in DC, but primarily we do try to use the streaming video approach as much as humanly possible because we do want to share resources nationwide. And also I think another point would be that as our curriculum becomes shared more nationwide also, it doesn't make sense for us to buy a video in DC, a video in Chicago, and a video in LA. So the more we can share things, the more we can do that. We also have some streaming videos that are not connected to databases, and I'll briefly discuss those before I finish. But I do want to make sure that people understand that you can search for videos online. Now over here, once again, you can see them by format. So that's the full text approach is probably not really as crucial here because if you limited it by the local campus, it's only really going to should only be bringing up the videos that we actually have cataloged in our nationwide databases or at our local campus. And that is one thing I would also emphasize, that the videos that aren't part of a national database, they're here in this local catalog, but they're not really going to be of much use to students in Chicago and DC. So the nationwide resource is really the key resource. I want to go back to this generalized search box again, and I want to go back to our good old friend, the pull-down box. It says Find Media. Okay, so now we're on the media page. Oh, I mentioned earlier, everything always seems to come back in circles in the world of libraries. Here's how you would sign up for Iliad or Interlibrary Loan. So we have actually embedded these links for Iliad on multiple pages. So it's pretty easy to find out. And it's really a good tool for anybody who's doing more sophisticated research to sign up for Iliad, because as you're looking for articles and books and chapters and things, there may be a time when you really do want to find this, and this is a very nice link for you. It creates a very easy way to send requests through the Interlibrary Loan system. Well, here we go, and now you see over here the streaming videos. And these are actually a series of databases that we have where you can watch videos. I'm just going to show one because this particular one I think is very nice graphics and it's pretty easy to use, and I often find that people, teachers and even students when they're doing presentations, use this tool. Also, some of our students are now using these videos actually working with clients or in their internship or practicum settings, because these videos are actually very, very nice tools. The psychotherapy one has, as it says, over 200 titles. Alexander Street actually has many, many more titles. Actually, I can't remember if it's over 600 or 700, but is a lot of titles, so we're actually just keep increasing the number of videos all the time. But let's just take a quick look at the Psychotherapy.net collection. And supposedly this will come up, but for some reason it seems to take a little longer to link in. And you see it's very nice and colorful, and I do like it. It's very easy for people to look at and read. And it also has a couple of very nice features. One being over here, you can either do it by approach, that is, say, CBT or various other types of therapies. You can also do the therapeutic issue, which might be such as grief, addiction, working with families, and then you can also do it by expert. Now remember, we looked up for a video on Aaron Beck, so let's click on expert, and my goodness, there's Aaron Beck. so if you click on that, and hopefully it'll work. Guess what? It's the same video we were looking at before. So I'm trying to emphasize here that you can use multiple pathways to get to the same material. So in this particular case, you found the Beck video via the WorldCat unified search box, but you can also find the Beck video by going through our unified databases and then going into Psychotherapy.net and doing a quick search. And so this is actually a really good way of showing people, I think, that there are multiple pathways to the same information, and each person can use whichever one they want. Now, sometimes I often show these more specialized pathways to the faculty and to students because their interests are more specialized in a sense. They're looking for, in this case, a nice database of videos that they can use in the teaching of their classes. On the other hand, when you want to do a very broad search on a wide range of materials, this unified search box is a really good way to go. And I think this really actually gets down to a major question point whenever anyone is doing their research. Are you looking broadly, or do you want to find specific resources? Are you looking, for example, really on a video by Aaron Beck, or are you just looking for something on CBT? And if you are just looking for something with CBT, then right here, use that unified search box. But if you really want to find specific videos, or a faculty member or scholar or colleague has recommended this particular database, go there. So always feel free, I think, to use the pathways that you want to use to find your information, your research. I did want to, before I kind of finish up here, because I can see that we're getting a little long into the discussion, I did want to emphasize that once again, that it is kind of important, especially if you are looking for what we in the library call analog materials. That's an old-fashioned book and paper book, to make sure you're clicking on the right campus. And if you don't do that, you're going to get yourself out and maybe into the worldwide net, and that means you may be finding wonderful books and titles, but they aren't books and titles that could be used or immediately accessed. And most of our students and most of our teachers and most of our administrators want to find books and articles that they can use, say, within the course of a few days or a week, not materials that are going to be required to be sent through Interlibrary Loan and eventually get to the library. So I do want to emphasize, make sure you click on the local campus if you think you're using analog, the old-fashioned book and paper materials. And even if you're not using the old-fashioned book and paper materials, if you want to ensure that you're getting full text access to an ebook or to an article or to a video, once again, it's a good idea to always click onto your local campus. Because once again, you want to find something that you can either get off the shelf or get through an online resource. You don't want to find materials that are worldwide. Now, there is a time, and as I said that earlier, the time is when you're doing your dissertation work, when you're doing a more global study, for example, a serious article that you might be writing, or a group presentation that's a semester presentation. Sure, you might want to do that worldwide search. You might want to find all kinds of books and papers and materials. And I have several of my faculty members here who do that level of research. And that's very important, to be that thorough, to be that dedicated. But when you have the press of work and research and time, I really do emphasize, make sure you click on that, make sure you click on that, so you know you're looking for books that are in the area and books that can be found through your local campus or through your local e-resources. I did want to open this up since we only have a couple of minutes left, and I've certainly been talking for a long time, to anybody who had any questions or anybody had any concerns or wanted me to amplify on something, and somebody who wanted me to explain something that I may have glossed over. Being a good librarian, I often talk too much about too many things. So time is open now.
Hi, Oliver. It's Paula. Actually, you've provided some great information, even for me. So I appreciate it. I think you've had a pretty captive audience so far. There were a couple questions, actually one question that I was able to answer about logging in. And here's a comment from Aaron Given. Your services have recently been very helpful to dissertation students. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And I do want to say about the logging in, you know, that username and password. If you have any questions, always contact your IT people, because they can reset your username and password. And I know this is absolutely true, because one Saturday morning when I was completely befogged for some reason, I don't know why, I forgot my username and password, and I got logged out and I didn't know what to do, and I was trying to help some student from home, and I contacted the 1-800 number for the IT folks, and they helped me right away. And I've always been able to change that my password that they gave me that day, but I keep it because it reminds me that they helped me, and they are out there to help you, and they can do a great job for you. I did also want to say that in this page, there's a lot of really good resources of information, and I did want to go over to this How Do I section. And guess what? There's a whole bunch of tutorials here about how to do research and all these things, which have been done by my really wonderful colleagues in Chicago and DC, Kim Lovick and Avril and the other folks. They're all wonderfully working hard, and unlike me, who has been around for 38 years and is slightly befogged by age and time, they're really wonderful in terms of trying to develop more and more resources here. And so they've created this wonderful How Do I page. And if you notice right here, there's a lot of good information just on how to access things. And over here, there's even a little bit of APA advice. So they really do, I want to say that the librarians here really do care a lot about getting the best tools they can and sharing those tools with the faculty. And their commitment is outstanding. And I also want to say that the faculty and the students are really growing, and they're use of this unified search box and use of these e-tools. It's very proud of the folks here. We're doing a great job. In fact, I had a student yesterday who came in, and she had come to my orientation session we had here on Monday, and she said, you have these books in the library. And I said, oh, well, how do you know that? I was being very fussy, like we librarians are sometimes. And she said, I looked, and lo and behold, she was right. She had used the unified search box to see that the books were on the shelf, or they were on the reserve shelf, or they were e-books, and in every instance, she was correct. And I think that's really great that our students are growing in their understanding of the e-tools, and this unified searching approach and resource approach is really helping students across the board and faculty members across the board.
I'm going to agree with you on that one, Oliver, and also add my appreciation to the library staff at the Chicago School. And I know you were talking about Iliad earlier. Anytime I've requested an article, my experience, it's been less than 24 hours that I received the article. So
sometimes, yeah, the record for me was 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
But I do warn the students, because sometimes if a student makes a request, say a Sunday night right after the library is closed, and nobody comes in until 9 o'clock the next day, and they send it out, it might be 24 hours or 48 hours before they get the article. So I always hate to have students become disappointed, because it's really sad when they get the article 9 o'clock on Saturday morning and their paper was due at 10 o'clock Saturday morning. So I do try to caution them to be cognizant of those time restrictions.
That's a good point, Oliver. It's that good old time management.
Yes,
if there's any
something I'm failing on.
Yes. Are there any additional questions, comments? We're going to be wrapping this up in just a few minutes. I just wanted to reach out to see if there were any more questions or comments. So Oliver, you've been at the LA Library for how long?
I've been here for 8.5 years, wow. And the library's been here for 8.5 years. So, and the campus has been here for 8.5 years. So we've all been here together. So. Okay,
so you're like a founding father.
Yes, and it's been a lot of fun. We started with, when I first opened the doors here, we only had about 200 books on the shelf. So it's really been great to see the library grow, and it's been great to see the electronic resources grow. We originally only had 200 ebooks, and now we have well over 10,000 just in the field of psychology itself. So it's really great addition of materials.
That's fabulous. We do have a question here from Jamar Turner Johnson. Good question here. Quick question. Is there a way to get books sent to the Irvine campus from LA? And if yes, how long might that usually take?
Generally speaking, we can't send too many books to the Irvine campus, because the books, if you're talking about the required textbooks, they are actually being used here. So obviously I can't send them. However, if there are some books that are that you feel would be useful additions to the Irvine campus, we're happy to send them. One thing I would emphasize, though, is that any Irvine student is free to come to the LA campus and check the books out at any time. This library here in LA is your library also, so feel free to come here and check out the books. But generally speaking, I can't check books out to people unless they're actually here. But actually, in many cases, Irvine students do come up here and check our books out, and that's fine. That as long as they are happy to check them out and return them, we're fine with that. If you're talking about getting some books or materials for the Irvine campus, I think you could certainly forward those requests to me, and we can see, you know, what we can add. I can't always guarantee. That's another reason, though, why we are trying to emphasize more and more the e-books, because the e-books allow material to be shared here in Irvine, LA, and all over across the country. So, but always feel free to come here, and any Irvine student to come here and check out any book we have that is already available for checkout.
That's good to know, Oliver. Thank you very much.
Oh, sure.
Again, our greatest appreciation, Oliver, for your time this evening to share more about the library. And I don't see any additional questions or comments, so thank you to the audience for attending. A copy of this recording will be posted on the NCAID website. Professor Grant, again, many thanks to always setting these up for us and organizing the webinars. They are very helpful. So everybody, okay. Oliver, any last words?
No, keep using your library resources. That's it.
That's your motto. Got library?
That's it. Yes.
Okay, everybody, have a good evening, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.